Hello, everyone. I'd like to talk to you today about the important theme of argument, which is a very important thing in academic work. In this talk, we'll review the nature of argument in written and spoken academic contexts. Now, what I'm doing today is a brief introduction, and it's important to be it's important for you to also remember that you'll have to work through the materials and attend the online tutorials. So, first thing I'd like to talk about is what an argument is. Now, we have two kind of main meanings, and the first one is a rather negative meaning, the everyday meaning, which is a disagreement. And this kind of argument is often not very productive and is not really what we're talking about when we talk about argument in academic contexts. The second meaning, and this is the really important one, is academic context. Academic arguments. These are expressions of a point of view. Now, they're not just expressions of a point of view, they are expressions of a point of view along with reasons and evidence. So, these are strong um, points of view that are worthy of thinking about in depth. Now, academic arguments are very useful for the development and display of learning. So they're very important at university level to be able to show that you have learned something and you can apply it to an argument. So how does an argument differ from other types of writing and speaking tasks? Well, there are three main things that people do at university and in academic life. One is they describe things. They say about what is. So, for example, we can describe the nature of political ideas in different countries. That would be a description. We could describe what happens to certain kinds of metals when they are treated in different ways. So we could describe how metals behave when they're put under great pressure. That would be an example of description. And you have to have knowledge to be able to describe well, so it's an important thing to be able to do. Second thing people do at university is they give explanations. They explain why and how something is. So, an explanation might be, for example, if we were talking about the area of history, we might have an explanation of how Britain's history has affected the nature of what it is like now. So, Britain's history as an island has affected it in certain ways. Britain's history having been invaded from various parts of Europe has meant that the English language has certain characteristics. English history and particularly Henry VIII has affected the nature of religion in this country. So this would be explanations why something is like it is. Now, argument is a point of view, so it's a point of view that somebody puts across and reasons for these points of view. Now, which of these tasks would involve an argument? So the first one is, how do hydroelectric power stations work? Well, that would be an explanation of the mechanics of how this type of power would work and how, for example, the water would turn turbines, which would lead to the production of energy. The third one, which kind of energy is cheapest in the UK and why? Well, this could be a description because we can find out which kind of energy is cheapest and then we would have an explanation for why this type of energy is cheapest. The second one here, which kind of energy is best for the future of the UK? There is no one answer to this, and this will depend on your point of view. So task 2 is a task which will involve an argument. So the argument task is which kind of energy is best for the future of the UK. Why is this an argument? Well, very important feature of this is that several plausible answers are possible for this question. So the answer to this question is not cut and dried, and it will depend to a large extent on what the person putting the argument thinks is most important. So, for example, one person might think that the type of energy that is cleanest, the type of energy that is greenest, is the most important and the best for the future of the UK. However, another person might argue that this might be nice to have green energy, but people can't afford it. And so what is actually most important is which one is the cheapest, which one costs the least. And as someone who is not an expert, I can see both sides. And somebody who is an expert would have to try to persuade me that one of these is. What are the elements of an argument? So, what does an argument contain? Well, an argument contains a claim, and the claim here would be something like wind power would be the best form of energy, or coal would be the best form of energy. That is your claim. A claim is something that you believe that somebody else might disagree with. Now, if we just have a claim, this is not very strong. So we need to provide the basis for the claim. And the basis for the claim will include some evidence. So the evidence would be some kind of research, for example, or it could be data from somebody else, or it could even be the experience of an expert. Then you need explanation to say why this evidence supports your claim. So, arguments are built around claims. And an example could be wind power is the most appropriate type of energy for the UK. The writer then needs to give the basis. So the writer then needs to say what is the reason why they believe that. The basis involves explanation, and this is because it is clean and the UK has several windy areas, and evidence. This has been shown by research done by Smith. A special kind of argument is discussion, which involves also including counter arguments. The language of arguments, when we make a claim, we need to explain why we have that point of view. What kind of words will be used to explain the reasons? This might include the use of words like this is, because, or a reason for this is. When we make a counter argument, we need to explain the contrasts. What kind of words will be used to explain the contrasts? Well, possible words to use here are things like however and despite this. We also need to be evaluative, so we can use things like a likely cause, a major factor, might play some role in, might work, is likely to have a major effect on, or a possible solution. For more on this, see some of the material on hedging language. Might make arguments in a spoken or a written form. So many of your assignments and EMAs will be written arguments, but you may also need to give a spoken presentation. Now, in many ways, these are very similar, but you will need to be more concise and formal in written texts. Again, look at the language on style in academic text. Thank you for listening, everyone, and I hope this has been a useful introduction to the language of arguments.